Hey guys, Tearless here. Welcome to the best view in all of Dalaran. I am currently in the Hall of the Guardian, which is the class order hall for mages in World of Warcraft Legion. I'm sitting on this balcony here, right here, and on this table I believe they have a nice little Hearthstone deck. But I am here to bring you the class overview, a look at Arcane Mages in World of Warcraft Legion. This is going to be the first of two videos. This first video will look at the abilities that are being removed, changed, or brand new to an Arcane Mage in World of Warcraft Legion. And then the second video will look into the talents. Also in this video I will look at the artifact weapon for an Arcane Mage. If I can zoom in on it right here. I'm not quite sure of the name. Let me pull this up right here. It is a Luneth, Great Staff of the Magna. So we will take a look at this artifact weapon as well at the end of this video and look at the talents associated with it. So let's go ahead and get into it. Arcane Mage has changed very little in World of Warcraft Legion. In fact, I think the write-up for this was the smallest. For any of the specializations that I've done so far, it is by far the least amount of changes. However, I will say that the mastery did change for an Arcane Mage, so your playstyle may change significantly in World of Warcraft Legion, depending on how you look at it. I'm not a competitive raid leader doing the high-level raids as an Arcane Mage, so I am unsure as to how much this will change your playstyle, but we will get into it when we get to the new abilities for an Arcane Mage. Speaking of, this video will progress as I will talk first about the removed abilities so you can see what you've lost, then I'll go into the changed abilities, and then the new abilities, and then lastly we will look at what the brand new artifact weapon has for Arcane Mages in World of Warcraft Legion. So, going ahead into it, let's go ahead and look at the removed abilities. First, you should know that Arcane Brilliance has been removed. Basically, all raid-wide buffs have been removed from the game in World of Warcraft Legion, so this is not really a big deal. Cone of Cold has been removed from Arcane Mages. Now, this will be kind of disappointing for PvPers, though I promise you that something has taken its place that I think is even better. Two abilities have taken its place, which I think is even better. So do not worry. Cone of Cold will not be missed. Conjure Refreshment Table. I could not find this in my spell book. I'm not sure. I'm telling you what I see here. It's not in the spell book. I don't know if it's gone in some way, if we should expect it somewhere. I'm not sure. But for now, it's not in the spellbook, so it may be removed from the game. I find it kind of hard to believe because it's a very popular item. Having a conjure refreshment table, being able to do that. You can still conjure refreshments, and you can trade them to people, but that's really annoying. So I don't know why they would take something that's so simply quality of life when it's in the game. It's possible that it may just be missing. Invisibility has been removed from Arcane Mages, I believe mages in general. However, once again, just like Cone of Cold, better stuff is on its way, so don't worry. Presence of Mind has been removed. It is now a talent that you can take. Remove Curse has been removed. Really, I think Blizzard felt there's no reason for an Arcane Mage to have Remove Curse. Arcane Mind, one of your passives, has been removed. Enhanced Arcane Blast and Improved Blink, those were two enhancements that you got in World of Warcraft Warlords of Draenor. Those have both been removed. And then, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, Mastery Mana Adept has been removed, and it will be replaced with something else. So, with those changes in mind, let's look at the changed abilities. Arcane Barrage has been changed. It now has a longer cooldown. It has a 4.3 cooldown. We'll go inside here. You can see these really cool target dummies that they have. I think these glyphs on the bottom are above, but there's really cool training dummies. So it now has a 4.23 second cooldown as opposed to 3 seconds. However, do know that the damage that you get from your arcane charges has been increased to 70% per charge instead of 50. Now, Arcane Blast, same thing. Damage has been increased by 70% per charge as opposed to 50. So this is kind of a recurring theme across all of the abilities. I want to go ahead and generate some arcane charges here because I want to show you something. They have a new wonderful spell visual, UI visual, so you can see how many charges you have, and you can see these little baubles. They fill up as you increase your charges. And you can even see it on this small little simple UI that they've added to the game down here. And I'll just go ahead and use Arcane Barrage to clear them off, and then you see them, they kind of go transparent somewhat. Arcane Explosion, its range has been increased from 10 to 14 yards, however that comes from the artifact, so it's still pretty much base 10 unless you have your artifact leveled up, and then it becomes 14. And then it also generates an arcane charge if it hits one target. It used to be a 30% chance of hitting a target, it will generate an arcane it would generate an arcane charge. That's no longer the case. I can just go ahead and blast away and it will generate an arcane charge. I do not know if it is if there's a kind of an internal cooldown on it, but as you can see right there, 3 successive in a row I was able to generate arcane charges. I spammed it once. Nope. Every time you hit a target, it will give you an arcane charge. Simple as that. So you're going to have a lot better arcane charge generation out of an arcane mage, out of arcane explosion than you have before. Arcane missiles, the same story as arcane blast and barrage. Damage is now increased by 70% per charge, as opposed to the 50% it used to be. Arcane power has been changed. It now increases damage by 30% instead of 20%. And a huge buff, it now reduces mana cost by 30% instead of 10%. It used to be, I believe, without enhancements from Warlords of Draenor, that it would cost an extra 10% mana if you had this activated. Now it increases damage by 30% and reduces mana cost by 30%. I believe this was done to kind of change, you'll see how the new mastery works a little bit. Basically, out of all the DPS classes, most of them don't have to worry about mana, and then this is the one class in which they're going to make you very conscious of your mana. So, with that being said, the last change for Arcane Mage, we're actually moving along really quickly here, and that kind of shows you how little has changed for Arcane Mages. Evocation now restores 100% of your mana over 5.6 seconds. Its cooldown is reduced by 30 seconds from 2 minutes to 1.5. That's actually an enhancement. It's now baseline. So you're going to have that 1.5 minute cooldown on evocation. It's 100% of your mana return. So let's go ahead and get into the new abilities now. We have 5 new abilities to give an Arcane Mage in World of Warcraft Legion. The first one is Displacement, which is really cool. Let me go ahead and bring this up here. I don't think I have this on my bars. So here is Displacement, and I need Blink because this interacts with Blink. Teleports you back to where you were last blinked and resets the cooldown on Blink. Only usable within 13 seconds of blinking. So this is really cool. I'm going to run it as far as I can after a blink, and we're going to see how far we can go before we actually have to use this. So I don't actually even have blink on my bars, so we'll go ahead and have blink right here, and we're going to go ahead and use it. And you can see there's a buff in my top right hand corner that tells me how long I have until this buff goes away. I got 2 seconds. I'll use it right now, and I'm all the way back to where I started. That is an amazing potential for that in PvP. It also gives you amazing potential in PvE as well. So both PvP and PvE, I think, have some great potential for this. The ability to, you can teleport back to your position at any time. This is one of the amazing abilities I said was added, in which you're really not going to care that Cone of Cold and Invisibility are gone, because you're getting some pretty awesome abilities to keep players guessing. It's kind of a little bit of Tracer-esque if you've seen Overwatch, being able to kind of just teleport back to your situation. Now, it does not restore your health or anything like that. It just is a positioning thing. It just puts you back to where you were. So if you have to escape a boss raid mechanic, move far away, blink, then you're able to use displacement to get right back to where you were so you can start DPSing as quickly as possible, whereas all the other fools are running back to their position. Pretty cool. The second it's an ability that's been in the game, but second new ability that has come back for Arcane Mages is going to be your Frost Nova. Frost Nova is now back, and honestly, I don't know of many mages that would take Cone of Cold over Frost Nova. So having Frost Nova gives you an additional way to get away from players. The third ability that is now back is going to be Ice Barrier. So Ice Barrier is now back for Arcane Mages. It is baseline. You do not have the talent into it. You just now have a baseline. I believe it's the case for all mages. If I pull up Fire Mage right here, yes, it's the same for all mages. Ice Barrier is now baseline for all mages. Kind of going back, I believe it was baseline. Well, it felt baseline for at one point in time because the only class people would play in PvP was Frost. That's now no longer the case. They're bringing some more viability back to Arcane Mages and dealing with the troubles that they had, which is the fact that they do have to stand there casting for a bit, which can be frustrating. And considering that you lost Enhanced Arcane Blast, which did reduce the cast time of your Arcane Blast as you cast them consecutively and had arcane charges, it's kind of making up for that. Now, one ability you may have seen in my spellbook here is Greater Invisibility. Greater Invisibility is no longer a talent, but it is now baseline for all Arcane Mages. So now this is back as well for all Arcane Mages. So definitely Blizzard has gone through the trouble of making sure that Arcane Mages now have a lot of abilities to kind of help out within the PvP area. In PvE, it was more of a damage numbers problem. They would fix things through damage numbers. Its playstyle was pretty close to being okay, but in PvP it had real struggles. And so getting rid of Cone of Cold and instead giving you permanent Greater Invisibility, Frost Nova, this new displacement and Ice Barrier really helps out with Arcane Mages. Now, I will say about Greater Invisibility, it now has a 2-minute cooldown up from 1.5 minutes. So that is a nerf to it. It no longer removes dot effects, so that is another nerf to it, and it only has 60% damage reduction instead of 90% for 3 seconds. So it did get nerfed across the board, but that was to give it to you as a baseline ability that you now have for Arcane Mages. With all of that, that was a lot of PvP new abilities that were coming in, maybe displacement being used a little bit in PvE. The real ability that PvEers are going to want to know about is the new Mastery Savant. So before, the old Mastery Mana Adept basically said you did more damage if your mana pool was high. And I don't think Blizzard really liked how that worked out. It was very difficult to balance. So they came up with this new one. It's called Mastery Savant, if I pronounce that correctly. Increases your mana regeneration rate and maximum mana by 21.2%. So the first part is that it'll increase your mana and mana regeneration rate. The second part of it is arcane charges increase the damage of effective spells by an additional 10%. So basically, it no longer is a game on keeping your mana all the way maxed out. It's more of a game of making sure of when to use Evocation. Evocation is on that 1.5 minute cooldown, but it restores all your mana. So it comes to a point where, let's say a boss has, something he does every 2 minutes, okay? You get to that point and you're like, okay, I want my mana bar to be completely depleted by the time he goes into this. So that means using Arcane Blast more often than you normally should. I want my mana bar to be completely depleted when he gets into this phase where we kind of have to hide behind some rock or something like that. And then when we're hiding, I can go ahead and use Evocate and be ready for the next round. That's the kind of playstyle that you can expect to have as an arcane mage. It's a little bit different, um, so it's not completely mindless as it just says, okay, damage increased and maximum mana and mana regeneration increased. That sounds very bland and boring, but when you put it into that perspective of how evocation has changed in addition to mastery savant, I think when you pair those two together and you see how those have changed, that's going to change the play style of arcane mages. And honestly, I think it'll be more fun. One of my favorite classes in Warlords of Draenor to try PvEing with was Mage, and I remember getting in there as an arcane mage, and I ended up really disliking it, and I thought I was going to love it, and it turned out to be the opposite, mostly because of how the mastery works. So this change in mastery, I think, will make things more fun. Personally, I don't know how the real raiders out there will feel about it. So that is everything for arcane mages and their new abilities. Let's go ahead and take a look at now their artifact weapon and what it brings. First, we'll look at the ability, which is Mark of a Luneth. Create a rune around the target, inflicting 136,000 arcane damage over 6 seconds, and then detonating for arcane damage equal to 15% of your maximum mana. So, you want mastery, because then this will increase this, because your mastery increases your mana pool. I believe. I'm having kind of a block. Yes, it increases there. I was afraid there that I had made a mistake there. So, let's go ahead and just use it so we can see what it looks like. So I'm going to kind of do it here so that I don't want the glyph to pop up. Here, we'll do it on this other side here. I don't want these glyphs are bugged, so if I can just get into a spot, there we go. We'll go ahead and use it so we can see what it looks like. Oh, that's a really nice spell visual. Ah, no! Okay. So you can see it's kind of up here. I don't know where the base is for these constructs. It may be here in the middle. So that could be on the floor, or it could be just around the body. But that is the new mark that you have. It's a 1 minute cooldown. A lot of damage. 158,000 damage is pretty potent. Just to give you an idea, Arcane Blast does 46,000 damage. Mind you, we're still in the phase in which they're still kind of tweaking things around, which means damage numbers are going to change a lot. I will tell you right now on the beta realms, tanks are overpowered, and I don't know if they're going to nerf tanks or they're just going to buff the crud out of DPS across the board. It seems easier to nerf tanks, but they do have to account for the fact that most, I believe, threat generators have kind of gone away. Threat reduction has gone away, as seen in the Destruction Warlock video. And so tanks have to make sure that they're able to pull enough threat. Generally, it's done through their damage. So, with that being said, let's look into the artifact weapon and actually what it provides you. This is a Luneth, Great Staff of the Magna. I'll go ahead and show you a close-up once again of it right here. So you can see right here, and that little glyph kind of just changes with the camera there. It's a nice weapon. I really like it. So you start here in the bottom right, Mark of a Luneth. This is where you start, and then from there you have to build your up like a talent tree, like the old talent trees. So we're gonna go ahead and I guess we'll go from southeast to northwest, and we'll start here. First we have the Mark, which you've seen. Then we have Might of the Guardians, increases arcane damage dealt by 5%. Most of these are going to be very bland and plain, except for the epic portraits, and those will have some additional effects which makes some of your abilities interesting. You have Arcane Purification, increases the damage dealt by Arcane Explosion by 10%. You have a Blasting Rod, increases damage dealt by Arcane Blast by 6%. You have Mana Shield, increases damage absorbed by Ice Barrier by 100%. PvPers are going to be running for that one. Increases the duration of Arcane Power. This is Egwin's Imperative. Increases the duration of Arcane Power by 6 seconds. Egwin's Fury, increases the damage dealt by Arcane Missiles by 6%. And then we have Everywhere at Once, increases the window to activate Displacement by 3 seconds and reduces the cooldown of Displacement by 6 seconds. So the really cool new ability that you now have, getting this will increase your chances of, or increase your ability to create more space This is something that PvPers will want, so they kind of have to choose whether they want to go right or they want to go left, whichever one they want more. So we have the two of the epic abilities. We have Rule of Threes. You have a 33.3% chance to fire 3 additional arcane missiles. That's a really funny name to go with the talent and what it provides. 33.3% chance to fire 3 additional arcane missiles. And then over here we have Touch of the Magi. Arcane Blast has a 7% chance to apply Touch of the Magi, accumulating 12% of the damage you deal to the target for 6 seconds, and then exploding for that amount of arcane damage to the target and all nearby enemies. Let's see if we can actually pull this off. 7% is a really low number, so I don't know if it's going to actually activate, and I'll look on both to see. No, that was my trinket there. That's it right there. So it's accumulating damage, and then there. The glyph that kind of storms down and actually hits there. You saw it's like the pinkish glyph that storms down. That's the example of the damage being released. So next we have Egwin's Ascendance. When evocation completes, it explodes for arcane damage equal to 12% of the mana it restored. I don't know how useful that'll be. Generally when I'm casting evocation, I don't want to be near targets. So definitely more PvE usage than PvP usage, but I could be wrong. But in PvP, I find this to be useless. Crackling Energy increases the radius of arcane explosion by 4 yards. We have Ethereal Sensitivity. Spells have a 3% increased chance to activate arcane missiles. We have Slow Down. They went super trolly on this, on Aluneth, Great Staff of the Magna. Slow applies to all enemies within 5 yards of the target. So if they're grouped up, your slow's going to hit everyone, which is pretty awesome. Really awesome to have that ability. You have a Torrential Barrage. Increases the damage dealt by Arcane Barrage by 10%. We have the other epic right here, which is Arcane Rebound. When Arcane Barrage hits more than 2 targets, it explodes for 113 additional arcane damage to all enemies within 10 yards of the primary target. We'll test that in a second, see if I'm able to test that in a second. Last one here is Egwin's Wrath. Increases the critical strike chance by 3%. I don't know if I have targets close enough to be able to do that. We shall see. I'm going to build up arcane charges right here just like that. And they're not close enough for me to actually be able to portray that here. They're a little bit far apart. We'll go ahead and try scooting back here and see if I can do it again. Getting back a little bit further. And 3 charges. Let's get back. And it's too far apart. But that is a new talent, or I should say it kind of is a talent when you actually look at the Great Staff. That is a new ability that you'll have when Arcane Barrage hits more than 2 targets. It explodes for 113,000 additional arcane damage to all enemies within 10 yards of the primary target, so it's more AoE damage. Definitely something that's going to be useful more in PvE than in PvP, in my opinion, but still a lot of more damage coming out. 113,000. We already discussed how Arcane Blast kind of starts off low. In fact, let's see what an Arcane Blast looks like all the way up, so you can see just how much damage it is. It actually is at 4 charges. At 4 charges, it's 123,000. So, oh, sorry, it's not at 4 charges yet. Now it's at 4 charges. So 151,000 damage at 4 charges. That kind of gives you an idea of how much damage that will actually do. And I will say that once you start getting to the hundreds of thousands of damage for your abilities, that's when you start hitting really hard. A lot of the abilities across the board generally are below that. Even in the last video looking at Shamans, their Lava Burst on crit was hitting for only like 70-something thousand. So it's a decent amount. So, that's everything for Arcane Mages. This video was a lot longer than I thought it would be, considering that Arcane Mages really did not get much, did not change very much. However, I will say that some of the new abilities that they have in terms of, well, specifically speaking, displacement, is pretty cool. And so we spent some time on that, and I needed to explain Mastery Savant and how that will actually be, I think, more beneficial than the old Mastery Mana Adept when you combine it with the changes to Evocation. So that's everything for the abilities and artifact weapon section of Arcane Mages. In the next video, I will look at the Honor talents and the PvE talents for an Arcane Mage and show you what is changing there. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys later. Tearless out.